So one of the more common questions that we get as part of the group is, how on earth do I get started in wingfoiling? I see what you guys are doing. It looks so cool. What do I got to do? What should I buy? All that sort of stuff to get started here in central Arizona, Phoenix metropolitan area, and specifically at Lake Pleasant. So the short answer, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, is the news, or the answer is not great. But if you're persistent and you're really determined enough, I'm going to give you three-ish realistic options, as well as talk about the pros and cons of each. That will hopefully, at least one of which will be accessible or an option for you to get you into the sport of wingfoiling. Hey guys, it's Ben with AWKWA, Arizona Windsurfing, Kiteboarding, and Wingfoiling Association. Well, I'm not going to bury the lead here, and I'm going to be perfectly upfront and honest, and it pains me to actually tell people this, but the news is really not that great. There's effectively no place to rent gear. There's no shops or clinics that are formally anyways offering lessons or introductory courses on how to do it. And honestly, for much of the year, and particularly when the water would be warm enough that newcomers or whoever would actually want to get in the water for a prolonged period of time, the wind direction, particularly at Lake Pleasant, is not exactly conducive to learning or for first timers. For more reasons why that is, I'm going to go ahead and link or thumbnail the specific video on where to windsurf, kiteboard, wingfoil, windsurf foil at Lake Pleasant, so you can examine all those specific reasons for yourself if you'd like to. All right, first, option number one. This may seem kind of obvious, but have a friend who wingfoils. Okay, or somebody with the gear that they're willing to or kind enough to lend to you to get started. The pros of this, obviously, is it doesn't cost you anything other than maybe buying them lunch or buying them a beer afterward. Pretty small. Also, you can kind of get a feel for whether it's something you even actually want to pursue or invest in, right? The cons are that you don't really get to learn with your own equipment. Also, if your friend doesn't really know what he or she is doing, that could really actually impede your progress, or that could actually turn you off from the sport altogether, at best, and at worst be kind of dangerous, if not life-threatening in certain situations. Same goes for gear and equipment. If the person, and I can actually point to myself as being one of those people, if they really don't know what they're doing or what they got into and didn't adequately research it, who knows if the gear they have is something that's even appropriate for you, given your skill level and your height and weight, to actually learn on. Again, which could lead to a lot of frustration and a really, really high learning curve, or or possibly even just turning you off on the sport altogether. Similarly, if your friend or your buddy doesn't really know what they're doing, or they're maybe not that great of a teacher, again, it could also impede your progress or just turn you off from wingfoiling altogether. Okay, let's talk about option two, and that is actually go someplace that has gear to rent, has a clinic and good instructors. The pros of this are kind of self-evident. You're gonna go someplace, hopefully warm, with warm water, tropical perhaps, that has gear to rent, has instructors that can show you how to set up and how to actually get going on that gear, as well as the wing basics and sailing basics and all of the things that you're going to need to know anyways. And hey, you'd be on vacation. You know, it doesn't get any better than that. The cons are, as you can imagine, that you know, travel to some place you know, exotic or not so exotic that has wing foiling isn't exactly cheap. Obviously, it's much more convenient to do it here, not too far away from home. And then the other factor is that, you know, at the end of the day, we are still talking about a wind sport. You are subject to the randomness or vagaries of Mother Nature. You could be, you know, La Ventana or, you know, the Hood River or Maui or wherever for a week, and, you know, it may just not be blowing. The other good news is that usually if it's someplace that has gear to lend out or to rent out for wing foiling, chances are they have instructors there, and moreover have a particular site or area that is conducive and a comfortable space to on the water to actually learn. Okay, option number 3. This is the whole hog approach, and that is just basically dive in with both feet, do your research, try to find the best deal from a particular shop, and just acquire the gear and, you know, just have at it. Just try to learn it yourself. The advantages of this is that you're going to have your own gear to learn on and master. So you're not gonna have to borrow anything. There's nothing to rent anyways here, so you're not gonna have to rent. And you have it available, so you can get kind of comfortable and understand the nuances and the little particular idiosyncrasies of your gear and setup. The other advantage is that, you know, fortunately there's tons of resources online. There's no shortage of videos about how to select the correct wing foil gear as a beginner, whether it's the board, the wing, the foil, so on and so forth. Okay, what are the cons? Well, it's going to be obvious. To buy your own gear, to buy your own setup is not going to be cheap. Fortunately, as wing foiling continues to explode, the price continues to plummet. And you definitely see this, I see this all the time in the secondhand or resale market, particularly in certain parts of the country. Gear continues to, the cost of gear continues to go down. Okay, I'm going to give it kind of a bonus, or if that one was, last option was 3A, this is kind of 3B, and that is, it's a little bit of a half-ass or tweener option, but it might be something that can apply in your situation. Basically, if you have a stand-up paddleboard, a SUP, or you have access to one, you can actually borrow or use that to at least learn and master, hopefully, the basics of wing sailing after you have gone out and purchased a wing. There's plenty of wings. We're like, I don't know, we're on generation 3 or 4 now of surf wings. So there's plenty of them out there on the secondary market for pretty cheap, certainly way cheaper than a new one. So the only caveat I'll say about using a SUP is that you want to make sure that it has some kind of option of a center fin, because that's going to not only keep you on track as you learn to propel yourself with the wing, but it's also, more importantly even, going to at least, if not prevent, at least stymie the inevitable drift downwind that you're going to experience as a beginner. If the SUP that you have or are borrowing doesn't happen to have a keel or a center fin option, there are aftermarket or secondary options out there. I know Slingshot, for one, sells an adhesive attachable center fin that you can stick onto your inflatable SUP or even your hardboard SUP, actually. You may want to ask your friend, if you're borrowing a SUP, get his or her permission before you actually do that. And I believe Duotone used to sell I called it a wind stopper or something like that, which is effectively 2 fins that you could strap on to your SUP that. So one more note on the wing, as you've probably seen if you've been researching this stuff, a brand new one is extremely expensive. For those reasons, again, as with the prior options, as you're researching this and you come across particular questions or concerns about what would be, for example, the best wing size for you for your first wing, again, feel free to either post that question below, or more specifically, to get more of a local flavor or local opinion, be sure to join AWKWA, as well as post a comment or question. And hopefully with that knowledge, you'll be able to go out, like I said, into the secondary market and be able to locate a wing used for a lot less than a new one that is of suitable size for you, your height, your weight, and your level of skill. So the pros of this approach are, I think, kind of self-evident. You know, it's not a full outlay into gear. It's kind of hopefully using stuff that you either own or have access to. But at the same time, it's like not the whole hog approach where you're just, you know, just buying everything. The cons is, you know, hey, you're going to be on a stand-up paddleboard. There's not going to be any kind of flying involved for you. There's not going to be any foil attached to it. So your expectations of performance are going to have to be limited, not only with... Okay, one big caveat I want to mention about this last approach, this 3B, use of a stand-up paddleboard, is that please do not try and do this when or on a day that the wind is offshore, okay? Unless the exception is you have a friend standing by, following you in like a jet ski or a boat, or even another kayaker or paddleboarder who can hopefully tow you in. And folks, that's our video for how to get started with wing foiling if you happen to be in the central Arizona or Phoenix metropolitan area, or really Arizona, you know, as a whole. Again, the news, the options are not great, but I hope through this video I've at least clarified the reasons why, and maybe even given you some choices which hopefully at least one of them will kind of work for you. But if you're determined enough and you can persevere through a lot of these, I guess, structural challenges that we have here to get started in the sport, you will be rewarded. It is so very worth it, I assure you. And again, like I said, myself, our group, we are here to help. We are here to answer your questions. It could be overwhelming, so that's what we're here for. Leave a comment below, leave a question if you have it. Well, I know the news wasn't great, but if you found this video useful, please do not forget to hit like below, as well as subscribe to the AWKWA YouTube channel. It sure does help me a lot. And also, you get to be notified of the latest content and videos as they drop. Until then, as always, this is Ben with AWKWA wishing you good winds and happy sailing.